Hey everyone, nothing is quite like going to the zoo. Seeing the animals is always an amazing experience, especially since many zoos do a great job at transporting you to the savannahs of Africa, dense cloud forests of South America, or the tropical jungles of Southeast Asia. However, there are some zoos that are much better than the rest. So for today's video, we're going to be taking a look at 15 of the most amazing zoos in the world. Number 15. The Beijing Zoo. Now, when it comes to visitors, the Beijing Zoo is simply elite. It welcomes more than 5 million visitors annually. It's a popular destination for both locals and tourists, and it's not really hard to see why. It was founded in 1906 during the late Qing dynasty. It's the oldest zoo in China and is meant to resemble the grounds of classical Chinese imperial gardens, with its dense groves of trees, stretches of meadows, small streams, rivers, lotus pools, and hills, all dotted with pavilions and historical buildings. While home to more than 14,000 animals across more than 950 species, the Beijing Zoo stands apart for its collection of rare animals that are native to China, with these including the golden snub-nosed monkey, South China tigers, Chinese alligators, and of course, the giant panda. And while the zoo has certainly experienced its low points, for example, its collection decreased to about 20 animals during the brutal Japanese occupation in World War II, it's now a fantastic spot. Number 14. National Zoological Gardens. Alright, if you're willing to venture down to South Africa's executive capital of Pretoria, then you can visit one of the most impressive zoos in the world. It was opened by colonial authorities in 1899, and it has animals from across the world. It features more than 9,000 individuals from more than 600 species. Although there are some animals from Asia, North America, and Australia, what it's known for is its premier African collection, as it has tons of cool species such as African penguins, elephants, hippopotamuses, and even endangered okapi. This zoo also stands apart for its top-of-the-line transportation, as it not only has about 6 kilometers of pathways, but also has a cable car link to the top of its highest hill with the bottom, and rental golf carts that allow you to zoom around the zoo with style. So, when you consider the impressive range of animals and the ease of access, I think you're going to agree this zoo is a must-see on any trip to Pretoria. Number 13. The Prague Zoo. Alright, let's face it, if you're going to Prague, chances are that you're looking to see some incredible historic sights, drink some great Czech beer, or take part in Prague's legendary nightlife. However, if you're willing to go a bit off the beaten path, then you can experience one of the best zoos that Europe has to offer. Opened in 1931, the Prague Zoo houses more than 5,000 animals across 670 species, and while it has many of the standard offerings of most zoos, Prague's most impressive feature is its specialization in rehabilitating endangered animals. After all, more than 130 species at the zoo are considered threatened, and some, such as the Galapagos tortoises, western lowland gorillas, and polar bears, are almost never seen together in one place. Beyond these rarer species, the Prague Zoo is also home to some critically endangered critters, and perhaps the most impressive of these contains 33 Chinese giant salamanders, with this being notable since there are less than 50,000 left in the wild. So, given its incredible amount of hard-to-find species, I think we can say that the Prague Zoo is your one-stop shop for seeing some of the planet's rarest animals all in one place. Number 12. Taronga Zoo. While Australia is home to several major zoos, the largest of them all is Sydney's Taronga Zoo. It's located on the city's incredible waterfront, and it was predated by a smaller zoo in 1884. However, after the secretary of an older zoo went to Hamburg, Germany, and became inspired by the barless exhibits he saw there, the decision was made to make a whole new zoo on a larger plot of land. This became the Taronga Zoo, and it opened in 1916 with a total of 734 animals, and featured seal ponds, an elephant temple, and monkey pits. It's since expanded and has become a far larger institution, featuring 350 species across more than 4,000 animals, and is perhaps best known for being the birthplace of rare animals such as the Sumatran tiger, platypus, and Asian elephant. As you might expect, the Taronga Zoo specializes in showing Australian wildlife, although to its credit it also shows its fair share of African and Asian species. If that wasn't cool enough, the Taronga Zoo has been so successful that it even attracts the likes of Prince William and Princess Catherine while they were there in Australia for a royal visit, making it a pretty cool spot. Number 11. The Chester Zoo. While London and Manchester may steal most of the thunder for those looking to take a trip to England, the Chester Zoo is worth seeing if you happen to be in the country. Opened in 1931, it has and continues to not receive any government funding. Yet despite this, it's grown to amass 35,000 animals across over 500 different species. Considered to be Britain's top visitor attraction outside London, with nearly 2 million visitors a year, it truly is a sight to behold, as it not only has tropical species such as capybaras, babirussas, and Andean bears, but it's even the birthplace of a rare black rhino, making it one of the few places in the world that you can see one. And while the zoo has animals that range across the world, it's best known for its Asia exhibits, which include the spirit of the jaguar, realm of the red ape, elephants of the Asian forest, and the islands, with the islands being extra special due to it being the home where the Sumatran tiger, which is a species that consists of just 375 captive individuals. So I think it's fair to say that the Chester Zoo truly is an incredible place for animal conservation. Number 10. Artis Amsterdam Royal Zoo. Of all the zoos out there, few are as regal as the Artis Amsterdam Royal Zoo. It opened in 1838 as a private members-only institution. At first it consisted of just a few parrots, monkeys, and a wildcat from Suriname, but it soon expanded to include far more species. In 1851, it opened its doors to the public for 1 month per year and became a completely public institution in the year 1920. In terms of its animals, Artis houses nearly 5,600 individuals across about 1,300 species, while also holding the distinction of being home to the last quagga, which was a subspecies of zebra that looked a bit like a donkey-zebra mix, and that ultimately went extinct once the specimen at the zoo passed away in 1883. It also has some great architecture too. It's got 27 historic buildings that are both beautiful and historically significant. Yet perhaps one of its most significant contributions has been its libraries of the Zoological Museum, Amsterdam, and the Amsterdam Botanical Garden. Home to 20,000 books, 3,000 manuscripts, and 80,000 animal prints, these libraries are some of the best in the world in terms of natural literature, and they can now be accessed as part of the special collections of the University of Amsterdam. Number 9. Omaha's Henry Doorly Zoo and Aquarium. While Omaha, Nebraska may not sound like somewhere that's the epicenter of animal conservation, it turns out that it's home to one of the best zoos on the planet. Created in 1894, it was renamed in honor of Henry Doorly after his widow donated $750,000 to the institution in 1963. And ever since, it's really grown into a world-class institution. It's serviced by a 3-kilometer-long railroad. The zoo is home to many top-of-the-line exhibits, with these including the Kingdoms of the Night exhibit, that's the world's largest nocturnal exhibit, and an indoor swamp, a lead jungle exhibit that sports one of the world's largest indoor rainforests, and a desert dome exhibit that has one of the world's largest indoor deserts within the world's largest glazed geodesic dome. It's perhaps thanks to these super large and super realistic exhibits that the Omaha Zoo generally gets very positive press, and in 2014 TripAdvisor even named it to be the world's best zoo after using an algorithm to assess millions of reviews for 275 major zoos worldwide. When you further consider that it's one of the world's largest zoos with over 17,000 animals across 1,000 species, it's not hard to see why it far outshines many of the other attractions in Omaha. Number 8. Loro Parque. While the words Loro Parque may translate to Parrot Park in English, Loro Parque is much more than that. It began as a simple and humble parrot park back in 1972, but it has since grown into a fully fledged zoo. And while it certainly has its fair share of parrots, after all, its population of about 4,000 parrots represents 350 species and subspecies, makes it home to the largest parrot collection in the world. It also has plenty of other species too, with these including dolphins in the EU's largest dolphin show pool, sharks in the EU's longest shark tunnel, and penguins in the world's largest indoor penguin exhibit. Beyond this, Loro Parque has also non-aquatic animals such as chimpanzees, western lowland gorillas, white tigers, and jaguars. And if you get bored of seeing the animals, you can also visit its massive water park, which Loro Parque claims is the largest in all of Europe. However, I should note that while the reviews are generally positive, it's also got its fair share of downsides. For one, its location on the Canary Islands makes it relatively inaccessible for casual travelers, while its collection of orcas and its Orca Ocean exhibit have been a subject of controversy surrounding strange illnesses, shortened lifespans, inbreeding, and general maltreatment. Therefore, while Loro Parque is certainly an interesting place, many refuse to enter its gates. Number 7. The Toronto Zoo. Toronto is easily one of Canada's coolest cities, and the Toronto Zoo is definitely a spot to visit if you're an animal lover. Spanning across an absolutely massive 290 acres of land, it opened way back in 1974, and after the dissolution of a much smaller zoo closer to downtown known as the Riverdale Zoo. While the site used to be served by a monorail, this monorail has become so overgrown with vegetation that it's been replaced by a set of 5 four-car zoo mobile trains that bring people around. And while this may not sound that great, this lack of transportation is certainly overshadowed by how top-notch the zoo is in terms of quality. A truly international zoo, it's home to over 5,800 animals across 500 different species, with these being spread across African, Eurasian, Malaysian, Arctic, North American, and South American exhibits. Of these, the North American exhibit shows many species that are absent from exhibits in Europe and Asia, with these species including wood bison, moose, bald eagles, cougars, and grizzly bears. However, the shining gem of the park was the panda exhibit in its Eurasian sector, and while it was relocated to the Calgary Zoo in 2018, the pandas spent 5 fruitful years in Toronto. In fact, the resident mother even gave birth to 2 twin cubs while there, marking the first time ever that pandas have successfully been born on Canadian soil. And while the pandas have since come and gone, the Toronto Zoo is still a fantastic place to visit. Number 6. Singapore Zoo. While most zoos have clearly marked and delineated cages, the Singapore Zoo is a bit more innovative than most. Opened in 1973, it initially had a collection of 272 animals from 72 species, and this has since grown to more than 4,200 animals across 300 species, of which 34% are rare or endangered. While it has species from around the globe, it generally specializes in the Old World, as most of its exhibits are for animals from Africa, Asia, and Australasia. This allows the zoo to take a more specialist approach, yet beyond this, it also stands apart for its unique type of enclosures. Rather than have large glass cases or cages, most animals in the Singapore Zoo are kept in large enclosures with hidden fences, meaning that while the exhibits are perfectly safe, you can get an eye-to-eye view with the animals without feeling like they're behind a barrier. This is possible because each exhibit has a 2 to 3 meter wide moat that stops animals from simply jumping out, with some exhibits even having wires in order to prevent more dangerous animals such as cheetahs from escaping. There are even parts of the zoo with less dangerous animals where there are no barriers at all. For example, the fragile forest allows creatures such as lemurs, squirrels, and bats to get up very close and personal, although it should be noted that it's prohibited to touch or feed the animals. And while some may argue that this approach is a disaster waiting to happen, I think that the Singapore Zoo is truly a trailblazer. Number 5. Busch Gardens. If you're looking to go to a place that combines the natural aspect of a zoo with the thrills of a theme park, then look no further than Busch Gardens. While it has a similar location in Williamsburg, Virginia, the OG location opened up in 1957 and spans across 136 hectares of land. At first, it was meant to be a brewery with accompanying gardens, although ever since, the gardens became much more popular, causing the brewery to eventually close its doors in 1995. In any case, as it sits today, Busch Gardens has something for everyone. If you want to mainly see animals, you can walk around its Asian and African-inspired exhibits, which include the Edge of Africa exhibit that's home to a Nile crocodile, meerkats, 2 prides of lions, a pack of spotted hyenas, and 3 hippos, among others. Jungala, which is home to orangutans, tigers, and flying foxes, and Nairobi, which houses animals such as western gorillas and chimpanzees. If you'd rather take a break from the animals, you can also go on some of the rides, which includes everything from a set of 10 thrilling roller coasters to somewhat tamer river rafting and log flume rides. Of these, some are rather impressive, with the roller coaster Montu being the tallest and fastest inverted roller coaster in the world when it opened, and Falcon's Fury being the second tallest freestanding drop tower in North America, and one of the few to have riders fall on a somewhat inverted slope. So, Busch Gardens, it's a great spot to visit while on a family vacation. Number 4. The Vienna Zoo. While there are thousands of zoos in existence today, the oldest that's still kicking around is the Vienna Zoo. First opened in 1752, it's located in Austria's elegant capital city of Vienna, and it's renowned for its style. Found within the grounds of the same Schönbrunn Palace that housed the Austro-Hungarian imperial family during the summer months, the zoo originally housed the imperial family's menagerie, and due to their wealth, they amassed quite the collection of animals. They got their first elephant in 1770, predators such as wolves and bears came in 1781, and a number of polar bears, big cats, hyenas, and kangaroos were on display by 1805. In its initial years, only the imperial family could enter, but it wasn't long until school children, diplomats, private guests, and finally the general public were allowed in. Due to its wide range of animals, it became popular with visitors around Europe. And while both world wars did a number on the zoo's animal populations and enclosures, it ultimately survived both conflicts and continues to run to this very day. In fact, the Vienna Zoo is now considered to be one of Europe's best zoos, and it now not only has super cool animals such as Arctic wolves, Indian rhinos, Siberian tigers, and giant pandas, but it also has some great architecture. Contrasting elegant Baroque buildings that are holdouts from the Imperial era with more modern buildings such as its top-of-the-line aquarium complex, the Vienna Zoo truly has something for everyone. And this is not to mention the fact that the entire complex is considered to be a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So yeah, this Vienna Zoo is truly elite. Number 3. Zoologische Garten. While Berlin is a city filled with many cool sights, one that you absolutely shouldn't miss is the Berlin Zoo. Considered to be the oldest continuously running business in the city, it was opened all the way back in 1844. And while it's not the largest zoo in the world in terms of area, it has more animals than any other zoo, coming in at more than 20,200 individuals across about 1,380 different species. However, it hasn't always been smooth sailing. That's because in World War II, the zoo was bombed by the Allies, and the first major attack between November 22nd and 23rd of 1943 was absolutely devastating. In less than 15 minutes, 30% of the zoo population was killed, and on the second day, the aquarium building was completely destroyed by a direct hit. Things got even worse a year and a half later during the Battle of Berlin, as the zoo became a full-out battleground as German soldiers began using the zoo tower as a last stand when fighting off the Soviets. The end result was a zoo that was in complete shambles. As of the 3,715 animals located there, just 91 survived. Thankfully, though, the zoo found itself within the NATO-controlled West Berlin in the post-war era, and this allowed it to slowly but surely rebuild its animal stocks and become a well-respected institution again. It now hosts animals from around the world, with two of the most famous by far having been Knut, who was a super cute polar bear raised by the zookeepers after his mother rejected him, and Bobo, who was for a time the oldest known panda to be housed in a zoo. And while the Berlin Zoo certainly has some skeletons in its closet, after all, it became the site of some serious discrimination when in 1938 the Nazis stripped all Jews of their shares in the zoo and removed all Jews from the board of directors, it nevertheless seems to have more or less restored its public image today. Number 2. The Bronx Zoo. New York is home to its fair share of zoos, but none are quite as extensive or impressive as the Bronx Zoo. Opened in 1899 on a 271-acre lot at Bronx Park, it was and continues to be one of America's largest zoos, and on opening day it featured 843 animals in 22 exhibits. In 1916, the Bronx Zoo expanded its scope by opening the first modern zoo animal hospital, implementing a shift towards making animal welfare and conservation a priority. It's probably thanks to efforts such as this that the Bronx Zoo was given the nod to house some of the rarest animals on the planet. For example, in 1903, the zoo was gifted a pair of Barbary lions, which is a subspecies of lion from North America and the Middle East that became extinct in the mid-1960s. Similarly, in the early 1900s, the Bronx Zoo became one of just 2 zoos in the United States to display the Tasmanian tiger, which is a species of marsupial that would go extinct in 1936. Even beyond super rare species, the Bronx Zoo has always been a trailblazer in terms of displaying what it considers to be exotic, as it was the first zoo in North America to exhibit okapis when it did so in 1937, and the first to exhibit the James flamingo when it acquired one in 1960. Beyond its incredible history, the Bronx Zoo is still a very fascinating place to visit. As you might expect, it's expanded over the years to encompass many exhibits, and today it houses about 4,000 animals from more than 650 species. Some of these exhibits include the Tiger Mountain, which features Amur tigers and at times Malayan tigers, the Aquatic Birdhouse, which features everything from ibises to storks, and Madagascar, which features several species from the unique African island, such as Nile crocodiles, ring-tailed lemurs, and the greater Vasa parrots. This easily makes the Bronx Zoo one of the most diverse on the planet, and so if you're looking to see a hard-to-find animal, the Bronx Zoo is truly the place to be. Number 1. The San Diego Zoo. When it comes to quality, few spots even come close to the San Diego Zoo. A world-renowned institution, it opened its doors in 1916 under rather strange circumstances. You see, the story goes that on September 16th of 1916, a local physician, Dr. Harry Wedgforth, and his brother Paul were driving past Balboa Park when they heard a lion's roar. It turns out that this lion was left behind from a small zoo exhibit in the 1915-1916 Panama, California exposition. And after hearing it, Dr. Wedgforth turned to his brother and half-jokingly said, "Wouldn't it be splendid if San Diego had a zoo? You know, I think I'll start one." However, this joke festered in Dr. Wedgforth's mind, and soon he found himself at the head of a team looking after the exposition's animal remnants, which included wolves, coyotes, bears, monkeys, lions, bison, elk, and deer. Now, despite this zoo opening being a bit haphazard, to Dr. Wedgforth's credit, he closely modeled the San Diego Zoo's foundation off the precedents set by successful institutions such as the New York Zoological Society at the Bronx Zoo, and soon the San Diego Zoo began to thrive. Now, it should be noted that despite all the great planning, the zoo did have a rocky start. After all, the city San Diego didn't grant the zoo permanent land in Balboa Park until 1921. And that's not to mention the fact that the park struggled financially in its initial years. However, a generous donation of $9,000 from a local philanthropist, Ellen Browning Scripps, allowed the zoo to build fences to mark its boundaries, thus enabling it to charge an entry fee and ultimately begin to recover financially. Today, the San Diego Zoo has expanded to become a premier institution, and it not only holds prestigious titles such as having the largest koala colony outside of Australia, but it's also considered to be a sanctuary for threatened species, as it contains more than 3,700 rare and endangered animals, representing over 600 different species. The San Diego Zoo is also a site for internet historians. After all, on April 23rd of 2005, it was from a recording taken here that Jawed Karim posted a video entitled "Me at the Zoo," which holds the title for being the first video taken on YouTube. So I think it's fair to say that no matter which way you slice it, the San Diego Zoo is an important place. I'll see you next time.
Watch our binge-watching playlist if you'd like to watch all of our most popular top 15 videos. Grab a drink, grab a snack, and get ready to binge.